Thank you, Kak Laksi. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang semuanya. Good day. And hello, Angelo, and also Mbak Anggita, and also Mbak Yanu, and also Mas Laksi, and of course the students and also the lecturer from other university perhaps. We are so lucky today because we have our guests, yeah. And actually this class today is part of our special class. We have energy and efficient building courses, which is conducted under the program of the ministry that we have, independent learning. And we also have several students, not only from our university, but also from the university from outside of Universitas Indonesia. So this is a good experience for us. And yeah, in this class, we introduce the edge instead of only the theoretical background. We also have to improve their knowledge in using the applications, yeah, and doing the calculation, this kind of thing. So they the impact on the building. Yeah. Okay. Dear students, dear all participants, let me introduce myself. I'm Ovacana Dewi. I'm a lecturer in Universitas Faculty of Engineering. In this course, I also accompanied by Kak Laksi. He's also part of the lecture in architecture department. And this kind of for us, we would like to invite Angelo and also Mbak Yanu to become our for today. Yeah. So today we call the webinar as a Towards Zero Carbon Emission in Southeast Asia. And at the moment, we already have these two speakers. This is Angelo Tan. He's the country lead for the Philippines Climate. Share your background a while. And then the second one, we have Mbak Yanu Aryani. She is the technical specialist of Edge Indonesia program. Maybe you can say hi, Angelo, and also Mbak.
Hello, everyone. Terima kasih, Bu Ova. A few words here and there.
Okay, I just about to challenge something in Bahasa. No, no, it's not working then, yeah. Okay, shall we start, Kak Laksi and Mbak Anggita? Yeah, thank you so much. So we will start with the first speaker of the day. Again, we would like to shape this kind of event today. Like I said, it need to be like a serious or yeah, because we would like to have a lot of information exchange going. So today, the first speaker is Mr. Angelo Tan. I will call you just Angelo. Angelo in Master of Sustainability Built Environment at the University of New South Wales, Australia, Sydney. And he is currently the country lead climate business at the and you pretty much got a lot of certifications here. Edge expert, well accredited professional, lead sustainability accredited professional, Mensa International. Wow. And then several working experts. Angelo is the country lead climate business or operations officers, and also international finance corporation. The task is more or less managing IFC, World Bank's climate business. Yeah. Through excellence in design for greater efficiencies, age, and green building certification. Resilient Index, the BRI, yeah, Resilient Building Design and Construction. Okay, some of your volunteer work, you also mentoring and taught the leadership, and you also Global Infra Challenge team. Wow. And also you are also working volunteering in Sydney Collaborative Living Future Institute of Australia. have this built environment post-graduate Dean Merit Lead awardee. Okay, without further experience and also things to come up. So please, Angelo, start your sharing. And also for the others, please, if you have at the moment on the chat, then we can discuss after.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Buova. It's quite long, but thank you. So this to be a very interactive session. So at any point during the presentation, if you have any questions, just feel free to So I am sharing my screen. I'm not sure if you can see my presenter. Is this better?
Yes, this one's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So on the topic of towards zero carbon emissions in Southeast Asia, with emphasis on EDGE Green Building Certification as the green building rating system that zero carbon aspirations in the region. About who we are. So we're called the International Finance Corporation. We're one of the World Bank Group. So when you say World Bank, when people say World Bank, it's really IBRD or IDA, depending on where you're located in the world. But when you say World, 5 organizations. So we're one of those 5 organizations, and we're what you would call the private sector arm. So we're the ones who work directly with real estate developers, banks, and even governments that support climate business. You may be wondering, why does the have a green building rating system? Like, why do we have EDGE? And the reason for that is it allows us to invest in more climate smart investments. So as the private sector arm, our mandate really is to put money in more project environments, so to say. So our work on green buildings revolves around working with various real estate sectors. Building professionals or architects, for example. We also work directly with real estate developers. We also direct loans, and that includes banks, because we recognize that banks have a critical role to play in creating to create more green buildings. We also do green building codes and incentives. So, for example, in the Philippines, we played a very huge role in the creation of the Philippine Green Building Code. And we also work with local governments to formulate and develop incentives to reward green building design and construction. And of course, we have EDGE certification, which is. So what is EDGE? Now, for quite if you haven't heard about EDGE before, so EDGE stands for. It is an internationally recognized green building rating system. So if you've heard about LEED, if you've heard about STEAM, these are all green building rating systems. And so EDGE is also an international rating system to do green building design and construction. But it's important to mention the distinction between EDGE and other. So I'm not very familiar with Greenship, and I think my counterparts in Indonesia would be able to provide a better description. But if you would differentiate, for example, which is also very popular, both of them are international green building rating systems, but where LEED is focused on the accumulation of points. Let's say you will identify and the measures to achieve a certain number of points to reach the EDGE, the LEED standard. For EDGE, it's about focusing on resource efficiencies. So a project has to meet for it to be certified with EDGE. Another important so it's the EDGE app, which my colleague Yanu will be demonstrating later. So The Edge app is something that's very unique for green. Allows architects, for example, to identify the most cost-effective sustainability measures that you can implement for your projects. There's also the financial, the impacts on your ROI, telling you what are the impacts to the environment of these sustainability measures. Another important difference is that Edge has a bioclimatic modeling. So it is very specific. So for example, if a project is located in Surabaya, for example, then it's very specific standard, but rather it's very specific to where that project is located, and also depending on the type of the project that you are assessing based on the Edge standard. So Edge is growing all over the world, mostly in Indonesia and the Philippines. So we've certified more than 22 million square meters of building space so far. And through this certified buildings, we're carbon dioxide on an annual basis. And later on, you will see how easy it is to extract some of these impacts, like the tons of carbon dioxide saved through the Edge app. So Edge is available for any building typology. So we can do as walls and the roof can be certified with Edge. So various types of retail developments, various types of residential development, even industrial projects, hospitality. So that includes hotels, resorts, and restaurants, for example, institutional uses. So it is certified with Edge. Even mosques can be certified with Edge. So as a green building rating system that's designed to be more inclusive and accessible for emerging markets like our countries, it can be more consistently applied estate typologies. So whatever project you are working on can be certified with Edge. So the reason why we make green building certification easy for them is because we find that majority of the green build, like for example here in the Philippines, if I look out the window, I can see a lot of office buildings, LEED certified buildings, and that's the problem, right? So in the Philippines, green buildings, I think Indonesia has more, and it is growing, but the problem with that is only office districts are doing green building certification. There are many reasons for this. Sometimes it can be because other green they're too complex to implement, or maybe the people don't have the technical know-how, like the experts, like architects, for successfully. And so that's the story that we're trying to change. We're trying to make green buildings much more accessible to other types of buildings, and also even for buildings that are in faraway islands. We want to make it more into one so that it would benefit more people. So that will ensure that the program is also sustainable. Now, based on the latest report by the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change is widespread, right? So this was just released a couple of months ago. So change is now felt in all of the regions all over the world. Global warming is becoming faster, and humans are responsible for climate change. We are the reason why there's global warming, why we have various extreme weather phenomena, we have urban heat island, and all of these problems is because of what we are doing in our cities, in our buildings, and the building sector is very much happening to the environment. We know from research from the World Green Building Council of energy consumption comes from the building sector. The building sector is responsible for 38% of energy-related carbon emissions. It's just of resource consumption, so that includes water, materials, and other resources. The starting from the cradle, or when we extract raw materials and do our construction materials, up to the actual construction, even after we do the uh, um, renovation of our buildings. And also, we expect that the building sector will continue to double in foot by 2060. So if we don't do anything, then this problem will continue to happen. And what is the solution? For us who are working in the building sector, the main solution really is to make our buildings more green. And the way to do that is to do more. And I would say that researchers agree that for us to meet our targets in the Paris Agreement, we need to ensure that all new buildings zero by 2030, and new and old buildings all have to be net zero by 2050. Otherwise, we will not be able to manage the temperatures below 5 degrees Celsius. So going into that topic of net zero, what is three things? I mean, we hear it all the time. People say, oh, our building is net zero. In businesses, people think as net zero. But what does it really mean for buildings? So the net zero building, for it to be considered as net zero, it has to be a highly energy efficient building. We don't want any other building that has renewable energy to be called net zero just because it has renewable energy. We actually see some of this in practice, right? They're classified as net zero buildings. So because they have renewable energy, they're considered net zero. But the problem is that they are energy guzzling buildings. They are still consuming a lot of energy. And there's a if you try to offset that, it's not very sustainable. So before we can even go into renewable energy, we need to ensure that we first increase buildings. And the second component of net zero buildings is something that I've already discussed, on-site or off-site, and carbon offsets. So that's how you achieve a net components. And that discussion will become important in the succeeding slides that I will talk. Do you actually certify your project under EDGE Zero Carbon? How can you use the EDGE standard to create a net zero building? So we came up with something very simple, zero carbon. So it's simple as this. First, it has to be at least EDGE advanced. Second, you can undergo building. Third, under C, you have to implement carbon offsets or renewables for the building components one by one. So the first one is EDGE advanced. If you remember earlier, I talked about how a net zero building has to be first. Now, the problem with that loose definition is that it means, right? So what we do with EDGE is we provide for what is a highly energy efficient building. And for us, that definition means that the building has to have an energy efficiency of at least 40% compared to an ordinary building. So again, EDGE is based on the local climate. Building, for example, for it to comply with after that EDGE Zero Carbon, the office building needs to perform at least compared to a baseline office building where the project is located. Now, of course, you don't need to do that comparison manually. Later, Yanu will demonstrate how you can do the Edge app to do that comparison between your sustainable design and an ordinary building. So there are three levels to EDGE certification. Level one is EDGE certified. So it's where a project achieves 20% efficiency for energy, water, and materials. Now, I mentioned that low carbon, which is level three, you first need to achieve level two, which is EDGE advanced. So the building has to have of at least 40%. And then once you've done that, then that's where you can actually put in renewable energy or purchase carbon offsets to become zero carbon. So this is one of the case studies in the Philippines. So there is corporation. So Imperial Homes Corporation is an affordable housing developer sustainability measures that they've implemented. As you can see here, we have solar panels on the rooftop. We have this the walls, which is a kind of precast technology called Conovate. So it has low embodied energy and it's highly resilient. Also have low window to wall ratio. They have low flow water fixtures and other such measures to achieve the EDGE standard. Now, solar panels on the rooftop, they reach 40% for energy advanced. Imperial Homes Corporation is one of our EDGE champions in the Philippines. And what EDGE champion means is that they're actually certifying all of their residential projects with EDGE. And all of these projects, except for one, are EDGE advanced. So when projects present energy efficiency, they're already what you would call net zero ready buildings, meaning that you only need to implement renewable energy or a net zero or an EDGE zero carbon building. So for this, providing 100% of the energy requirement for the homes. So they need to look at other source, another type of renewable energy source, or maybe offset options to be fully powered by process or offsets. So the second component, I'm sure you know this, but before we even consider demolishing a building to put up a new one, it's best to explore retrofitting first, the efficiencies for the building. So this is what we call green retrofits. For a lot of our buildings aged first. Like we have a lot of old buildings because globalization happened first before there was a great awareness about green building design and construction practices. And so we have a lot of these old buildings that are not functioning to explore building retrofits, green retrofits for this building to improve their efficiency. So in the Philippines, we have a portfolio of upcoming net zero under EDGE zero carbon. So we have 7 office towers. So these are office towers here. I actually can see one of them right in front of my window. So 87,000 square meters. So it's a lot of building space buildings. Some of them are even greater than 10 years old. But because they already have what they need to do is to increase their energy efficiency to become highly energy efficient to meet the global standards for net zero and the standard. So what we're doing with them is we're guiding them through the process of using the EDGE app to identify what the easiest ones, the most cost-effective ones for them to reach efficiency. For some of these buildings, the energy efficiency is around like 38%. But when we implement occupancy sensors, smart energy meters, lighting controls, additional shading, for example, then we can increase the energy efficiency for this building, low carbon criteria. So these buildings are coming up, and we will be announcing the certification very soon. So that's for which is A, building retrofits, which is B. Now let's talk about C, carbon offsets and renewables. So when a project aspires to become a net zero or an edge zero energy audit. So we need to look at the energy bills, do meter read period to ensure that the building is operating as a net zero building. Also, the zero carbon, so we go in every 2 or 4 years, depending whether the building has on-site, to make sure that as a net for Edge Zero Carbon, we actually look at where they purchase their energy sources. So fossil fuels, electricity from the electricity grid, diesel, natural gas, more importantly, renewable electricity like solar, etc. We also want to look at if the project is applying carbon offsets. And again, for buildings that cannot totally power their building using renewable energy, then they have to resort through carbon offsets. Review, Climate Seed, UNFCCC, the ISO 14064 information on where to obtain carbon offsets. So again, buildings can do renewable energy on offsets for the part of the energy and for the other emissions that they cover with the renewable energy sources. So this is another case study. So this is Arthaland Century Pacific Tower. Arthaland Century Pacific outside there is actually the first edge zero carbon building in the world. So it's something that was, who knew that the Philippines can actually be a leader, a pioneer in zero carbon development. So for this building, they had energy savings of 45% with off-site renewable energy procurement from a hydroelectric power plant. And the green solutions like high thermal performance glass, occupancy sensors, daylight photoelectric sensor, recovery, gray water treatment, and a recycling system for the water. So it has so many advanced features. And again, it uses renewable energy in the form of order to achieve net zero standards. So I will pause there, and before we go into the components, I'm happy to pause there to entertain any questions that you have on net zero or maybe the ABCs of zero carbon buildings.
Yes, Angelo, there are some questions on the chat. I think from let's go start from Budianto, since it is in English. The rest I will translate it later, okay? Hi, Angelo. I would like to ask whether net zero energy building can get certified as an edge zero carbon. As in Indonesia, we are still cannot get renewable energy from out of site, or we have to add some PCO2 carbon offsets.
Okay. When we say edge zero carbon, it actually refers to net zero buildings. Zero carbon is our official label, but the base definition for what is an edge zero carbon building is actually a net zero carbon building. So they're the same. So now on the topic of not being able to get renewable energy, you can always resort to on-site renewable energy. So maybe solar panel of geothermal heat, or batteries, or anything that can be done on site. And then the rest can be at market. Is a global market. So wherever you are in the world, pathway to offset the part that you cannot supply with renewable energy.
Okay. I think there's one other question. Oh yeah, Bu Yana, do you want to add?
Yeah, may I add for Indonesia? I think, but for Indonesia context, we already have it's a service from the PLN, one of our electricity company in Indonesia. So from the PLN, since if I'm not mistaken, in 2020. They already launched what we call it renewable energy certificate. So this something like offsite renewable energy purchase. So it's the same like what your project name, Angelo, used from hydro. There's a list of the source for this electricity. So I will tell this in my slide, but maybe this is just heads up that PLN actually already have that. We call it REC, so Renewable Energy Certificate. So it's kind of something like the contract that you can buy from the company to buy by using that contract. So I think that's a problem.
Okay, thank you, Bu Yanu. I think there's another questions from Agus. Can we use Edge to evaluate whether our building is green without the intention of certification?
It's important to undergo the certification process. And the reason for that is that there's a third-party validation for the claims that you are making for the sustainability of the building. The problem with not undergoing certification, there are actually many businesses out there who are claiming that their building are operating as green without any third-party validation. And the criticism with that is that it can be considered greenwashing. So it's just claiming that you are doing something good without any third-party validation for what you are doing. So if there's really no third-party validation, then all of it is really just self-serving claim, right? Aside from that, if you don't validate your project, you don't certify your project, so miss out on a lot of the advantages of certification. For example, all of the reputational benefits of being certified as a green developer. For office towers, tenants are actually looking for third-party certification for the buildings. So it's not just enough to claim that it is a green building, but the tenants will actually look at what is the certification will come in. Also, if on the financing to raise more affordable financing for developing the building, then banks look for the third-party validation. So, well, in the first place, the certificate is expensive for Edge. And I don't see any reason why someone who has assessment process on the Edge app should not proceed with certification.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is the last one. Following that questions, we know that there are a lot of rating system nowadays. In terms of an indicator being addressed or maybe assessed, what are the differences between EDGE and other rating systems? I think maybe Angelo and Bu Yanu can help us with that.
Thank you. So yeah, so the Associate Professor Riza, who was one of our associate professors at UNSW in Sydney. Hi, Riza. So I just maybe just to clarify, being affordable and inclusive is affordable and inclusive. So that's true. It's really the more affordable building rating system. The reason for that, why it's affordable, is because we're able to bring down the certification fees because of our strategic partnerships, and also because as part of the World Bank Group, we have donors that support the program. In terms of what, it does not mean that EDGE is easier to. Green building rating systems only require a 5%. For EDGE, we require 20% energy efficiency. We even find some LEED buildings that cannot. It is inclusive in the sense that we have the app and we provide these are affordable, but it's not necessarily easier. It just streamlines the certification process. Now for the question, so in terms of the indicators that are being assessed, for EDGE, we look at only 3 categories: energy, water, and materials. And the reason for that is we want to be very straightforward. We want to focus on the resources that are most intensive in building design and construction. And next practices. If we make it too complex, then other developers, even the small, cannot comply. So we want to make it more accessible to everyone. With other green, Yanu can talk about Greenship and other green building rating systems. But for LEED, for example, you look at least 8 impact categories. So 3 versus 8, so much more than EDGE. They look at sustainable sites. They look at location and transport. They look at water, energy, and all of these categories. And under these categories are prerequisites. And so there are many overlaps, just to go back to the question, but definitely LEED is measuring more impact categories compared to EDGE. The question, maybe if Yano can also talk about Greenship and key differences for.
I think for the Greenship itself, it's because it's they also from the World Green Building Council, so they have a methodology the same as the LEED and also Greenmark. But maybe I can address what make EDGE different with others, because in our tools, so we provide tools that you can see the. I think that's what make these tools kind of simple way, just to show that how I mean, like, and in terms of analyzing, you can have an instinct that you can get, and then about and also the payback period of your we provide these tools. Everybody understand about green building with the intuitive way, just to make it everybody can in just one in just one platform. So I think I hope that helped too.
Yes, okay, thank you, Angelo and Yano. I think that's enough for now. Other questions will be compiled maybe at the end of this lecture. Okay, so Angelo can continue his presentation.
Thank you, Laxi. So at this point, we would like to sort of discuss the of excellence in design for greater efficiencies, or EDGE, before we go into the demo of the EDGE app by. Yeah. There are 3 components to EDGE certification that also set it apart from other green building rating systems. With other green building rating systems, But for us, we actually have the Edge app, which allows you as building professionals to identify the most cost-effective measures that you can implement achieve the Edge standard. So again, we will do a demo of that, so I won't dwell on that topic. The second component is, again, Edge is an achievable, it's easy to remember. So for a project to become, it has to comply at least 20% efficiency materials. So just going back to net zero buildings, the project has to perform at least 40% better for meet the standard with just 20% for water and materials. So and then finally, Edge provides a verified green label. So again, just relating it back to the question earlier, this is what you get when you certify with Edge. You get a certificate, you get a plaque that testifies to the sustainability of the building. So let's components one by one. So although I won't go into too much detail with the Edge app, it looks like. So you have the sustainability measures on the left. So there are measures like insulation of roof, external shading devices, for example, reduced window to wall ratio. So as you can see, it doesn't have technologies. For example, solar panels can sometimes be very expensive for the residential market. So there are many standards. And again, you just need to identify what works for you, what measures can to meet Edge Advanced before going to net zero. As you select the sustainability measures, you can see at the top that the energy efficiency is already at 40%. So you just need to work on water. You can see on the right, there's a graph here that shows you the comparison between a baseline building versus your design, which is the graphic, the bar thing on the right. So that's your sustainable design. So that's the comparison. So perform better compared to an ordinary building, which is on the left side. Yanu will go into a discussion of the impacts at the very top. So these are some numbers that you can extract using the Edge app. So this is what the Edge certificate looks like. So these are the efficiency levels for energy, water. Sometimes tenants or even especially home buyers, they probably don't care about whether the building is certified with LEED or with Edge or Green Ship or Green Mark or other green building rating system. But what they care about are the utility savings that they will benefit from when they choose that building to live in or to work in. About the Edge certificate is because it shows you all of the impact categories for that project. And that is something that can be translated directly into utility savings the building. On the right, you can see some of the sustainability measures that have been achieved to achieve the Edge standard. And of course, you have the IFC, the World Bank Group logos, the Edge logo, and be displayed in the premises of the building. So the steps for Edge certification process is first, registration, then there's the certification, and then there's validation. For certification and validation, there's certification and validation at the design stage, and then there's also certification and validation stage. So the design certification is when we ask architects to submit the project, and we award the certificate based on how it was designed. And then after that, we do the construction, and after the building has completed its construction, we go back in to validate according to how it was designed. So it's not just enough to design it, it's actually constructed as a green building. And again, if the building is a net zero building, or if you go in like every 2 or 4 years to verify that it's still operating as a building. So this is what I just talked about. So there's the design, there's the construction, audit and certification. And then finally, net zero building, we verify every 2 or 4 years during its operation, whether it's still operating as a net zero building. Now, slides, I just wanted to say that there is an EDGE expert training that you can consider undergoing. So maybe as students, something that you can probably do. So like me, when I was still I actually did my EDGE expert accreditation while I was still in Australia. All you have to do is do a 3-day training, so 3 half days. And after that, you can take the exam. So the exam is proctored by Prometric, the one who also administers the lead exams. And you can take the exam at home and what we call an EDGE expert. So EDGE experts are with the EDGE certification process. So for example, once you go out into the world and start designing projects, be an EDGE expert. You are a sustainability professional, and there's something design services, for example. So I will end there, and at this point, I'll turn it over to EDGE app. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Mbak Yanu would like.
Sure, Bu.
Okay, so yeah, Mbak Yanu, I will switch to bahasa first of all because I would like to introduce. I bet that you knew already Mbak Yanu, yeah, but the audience maybe not. Okay, so teman-teman sekalian, sekali lagi saya ingin memperkenalkan Mbak Yanu. Nama panjangnya Yanu Aryani, S1 di MIPA Universitas 11 Maret, S2 di Sekolah Lingkungan ya, Magister Kajian Lingkungan 2008 sampai dengan 2010. Kemudian ada sedikit sinopsis di sini. Mbak Yanu Aryani memiliki pengalaman lebih dari 10 tahun di bidang konsultasi bangunan hijau dan adalah lulusan magister dari kerja di Green Building Council Indonesia sebagai rating analyst. Kemudian juga co-founder dari PT Yodaya Hijau Bestari yang merupakan perusahaan konsultasi bangunan hijau. Dan saat ini Mbak Yanu bekerja di IFC sebagai technical specialist di EDGE ya, Mbak Yanu ya. Kira-kira itu barangkali introduction-nya. Silakan Mbak Yanu.
Selamat siang teman-teman semua. Jadi untuk mempersingkat, maaf, saya mau izin share screen ya Bu. Oke, sudah. Oke.
Sudah, tinggal di full screen aja Mbak ya. Udah.
Oke. Ya. Ini kami mau menyampaikan ada 2 topik mungkin. Maksudnya saya sebagai tamunya yang terkait bagaimana melakukan simulasi di EDGE aplikasi, dan yang kedua kami juga ingin memberikan sedikit gambaran ke teman-teman kerja di dunia green building ini pada di akhir sesi akan kami coba sampaikan. Yang pertama adalah bagaimana kita mau melakukan simulasi aplikasi simulasi untuk zero carbon emission dengan menggunakan EDGE aplikasi. Nah, mungkin kalau tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Angelo begitu panjang. Kalau kita tahun 2030 ini dari World Green Building Council, jadi definisinya sudah juga memang capaiannya adalah di tahun 2030 itu untuk new building dulu. Tapi kemudian memang selanjutnya di tahun 2050 diharap building maupun yang new building itu semua sudah net zero carbon. Dan memang pada prinsipnya itu ada kunci utama untuk menjadi net zero itu. Yang pertama adalah apa sih metrik yang digunakan, yaitu karbon. Jadi bagaimanapun global untuk mengukur efisiensinya kita menggunakan karbon. Kemudian yang kedua, untuk kita harus menurunkan kebutuhan energi dari bangunan tersebut. Jadi tidak bisa ujuk-ujuk pakai renewable energy. Jadi kita bagaimanapun kita harus menurunkan kebutuhan energinya dulu dengan teman-teman arsitektur dan juga perencana. Kemudian setelah itu ketika teman-teman bisa menurunkan kebutuhan, kita mencoba mencari cara bagaimana membalancing atau menyeimbangkan antara pemakaian listrik gedung bersih sehingga kita bisa menjadi net zero karbon. Lalu yang keempat adalah bagaimanapun tadi seperti disampaikan Angelo, kita perlu ada verifikasi agar semuanya terlihat lebih teliti, dan juga tentunya verifikasi ini penting supaya tidak menjadi greenwash. Ini tadi untuk edge emission itu kita ada yang sudah disampaikan Angelo bahwa yang pertama kita harus mencapai dulu namanya edge advance. Jadi kemudian kalau kita sudah mencapai edge advance, baru kita atau kita membeli menggunakan carbon offset. Baru lalu sebenarnya ini kalau kita mau pakai aplikasi Edge. Jadi saya berpikir mungkin dari teman-teman semua mungkin ada beberapa yang belum pernah coba, mungkin belum pernah buka website kami, atau mungkin belum pernah mencoba tapi nggak pernah sampai sign up gitu. Jadi cuma iseng-iseng atau hover-hover aja. Nah sebaiknya sih kalau teman-teman bisa sign up, karena ini kan toolsnya tadi ada pertanyaan sih kayak bisa nggak sih pakai Edge Building tanpa harus sertifikasi gitu kan. Jadi software kami ini gratis. Jadi kalau teman-teman mau sign up, mau save aja, memang tujuannya adalah untuk edukasi kepada masyarakat, karena memang ini dananya dari donor pemerintahan di Swiss dan juga di UK yang mendanai supaya aplikasi dulu terutama untuk negara berkembang. Tapi kemudian sekarang kita juga merambah untuk supaya setiap negara di dunia bisa menggunakannya. Nah, jadi sebaiknya teman-teman sign up dulu, kemudian supaya bisa login dan bisa, karena kalau teman-teman udah sign up atau bisa save project, bisa ngubah-ngubah project, bisa lebih banyak main fitur-fitur di dalamnya termasuk kalkulator. Gitu. Kemudian kalau teman-teman sudah misalnya punya gambaran project dia, kemudian yang harus dilengkapi adalah pertama data bangunan. Bagaimanapun kan kita perlu paham bagaimana pembagian dari ruang-ruangnya, kemudian orientasi bangunannya juga terkait dengan performa energi pada operasionalnya nanti. Nah, kemudian ketika teman-teman sudah melengkapi data bangunannya, baru kemudian nanti teman-teman harus mencapai penghematan minimum 40%. Jadi tadi ini yang poin kedua yang dikatakan kita harus reduce demand of energy listrik sampai dengan 40%. Karena kalau kita udah menghemat pemakaian listriknya, otomatis untuk mengkonvert menjadi energi bersihnya itu tidak akan terlalu banyak begitu. Dan kalau untuk watt air dan penghematan energi yang terkandung masih menggunakan standar penghematan minimum 20% untuk mencapai net zero. Kemudian selanjutnya tadi juga sudah disampaikan jelas sekali oleh rekan saya Angelo bahwa untuk mencapai net zero emission itu ada menyeimbangkan pemakaian renewable energy-nya. Jadi ada melalui on-site renewable energy, atau kamu melalui offset renewable energy, procurement tadi yang saya sampaikan terkait dengan REC, kemudian atau dengan menggunakan carbon offset. Jadi kan kalau carbon offset ini lebih kayaknya saya senang sekali dia Angelo sudah menunjukkan beberapa list untuk carbon offset. Jadi di situ ada institusi yang bisa menunjukkan bagaimana sih mekanisme dan cara purchasing carbon offset ini. Jadi kalau carbon menukar karbon, mereduksi karbon kontrak dengan institusi yang dia di sana membuat satu mekanisme di mana seperti misalnya ada restorasi butuh kemudian dikonversikan untuk kontrak dengan bangunan hasilkan pada saat operasional bangunan gitu. Kalau memang nanti saya terlalu cepat atau disampaikan saja. Oke. Jadi bagaimana melakukan registrasi saja. Kemudian kita diharapkan nanti teman-teman kalau memang sudah selesai acara ini, kalau tadi informasi dari Mbak Anggi, mungkin sesi pengenalan Edge ini di mata kuliah teman-teman belum sampai ya secara detail gitu. Tapi kalau teman-teman mau bertanya kepada kami dengan senang hati untuk membantu bagaimana cara menggunakan Edge aplikasi. Nah, ini kita mau bikin satu project ya. Jadi ini sebenarnya lebih ke contoh saja. Jadi kalau tadi teman-teman, karena kami dari Edge belum ada project untuk yang mendapatkan zero carbon. Tapi kalau di Filipina sudah ada tadi contohnya yang Nah, kita mau bikin bagaimana sih kira-kira kalau di Indonesia apakah memungkinkan dari sisi sisi praktisnya gitu, apakah ini hanya sebenarnya wacana saja gitu. Tapi kita coba untuk menurut kami sih rasanya memungkinkan, tinggal bagaimana si perusahaan tersebut memiliki keinginan atau mengaplikasikannya. Dan juga memang terlebih lagi dorongan dari pemerintah sangat penting. Habis ini kita akan coba simulasi, jadi kita akan bikin kira-kira bangunan tersebut adalah office building ya saja. Kemudian luasnya kita bikin 5.000 meter persegi. Nanti untuk building data kita coba kosongkan dulu sebagai by default. Jadi nanti kalau teman-teman punya real case, baru bisa masukkan sesuai dengan data bangunan teman-teman. Terus yang jelas kita akan mengklik no heating system. Nah, nanti apa sih solusi yang akan kita lakukan di dalam bangunan itu untuk mencapai net zero carbon gitu kan? Yang pertama adalah teman-teman untuk mikirin gimana passive design itu bisa mereduksi energi pada saat operasional. Nah, nanti yang akan kita lakukan adalah kita akan mencapai jadi kurang lebih ya bisa tetap dapat masuk matahari, tapi juga tidak terlalu tetap cantik dari luar begitu. Kemudian juga teman-teman akan memilih kira-kira warna dinding ataupun material kalau untuk atap biasanya dia ada memiliki nilai reflektifnya yang cukup tinggi. Jadi nilai reflektif ini kan berbeda ya. Jadi semakin besar dia merefleksikan panas dari matahari kemudian dipantulkan, maka tidak akan terjadi, diharapkan tidak membuat beban panas bangunan semakin besar dan untuk mengurangi heat island effect. Lalu kita juga akan melakukan memasukkan unsur-unsur aktivis di dalam bangunan, seperti kita akan tentunya saat ini AC itu sudah sangat umum ya, jadi kita akan pakai AC jenis VRF saja yang sederhana, dan mungkin teman-teman juga harus pahami bahwa untuk membuat green building ini adalah sebuah kolaborasi. Jadi ini adalah multidisiplin ilmu. Jadi teman-teman kolaborasi dengan teman-teman MEP, teman-teman landscape, dan juga mungkin pada saat pelaksanaannya harus berkolaborasi dengan kontraktor dan juga nanti tim dari building operasional. Tapi memang pada umumnya pada tahap desain itu banyak sekali yang menjadi lead adalah dari karena itu penting sekali peranan teman-teman ke depan setelah lulus dari studi ini supaya bisa mencerna atau melihat bagaimana sih praktis di lapangan yang kita bisa mengurangi kerusakan lingkungan dengan desain-desain. Kita lanjutkan lagi tentang aktif desainnya. Jadi kita akan menerapkan ada VRF yang dengan COP sangat bagus ya 3,8. Terus kemudian kita akan menggunakan lampu-lampu semua yang sudah hemat energi. Lalu kita akan memasang lighting control untuk koridor dan tangga darurat, okupasi sensor untuk semua, baik itu untuk ruang kerja maupun untuk kamar mandi. Terus ketika kita nanti coba simulasi, teman-teman akan lihat bahwa kita sudah mencapai penghematan 41%. Artinya kita sudah bisa nih terusin untuk ke zero karbon ya. Nah, caranya gimana? Nanti akan kita tunjukkan bagaimana caranya dia melakukan set renewable energy. Jadi dia akan mengkonversi emisi pada masa operasional dengan membeli offset renewable energy sehingga dia mengurangi impact dari performa pemakaian CO2-nya pada saat operasional. Artinya perhitungan itu akan mengcapture untuk membalance carbon footprint dari pada saat operasional. Adapun terkait untuk water, pada umumnya memang kalau dan lagi-lagi untuk pemilihan water fixture itu adalah wewenang atau adalah lingkup dari teman-teman arsitek. Jadi air dia adalah lingkupnya MEP, tidak, karena bagaimanapun estetika dari ataupun mungkin tampilan untuk klosetnya itu adalah wewenang teman-teman juga pada akhirnya juga memiliki andil sih low flow-nya berapa sih water flow-nya gitu dari setiap keran-keran tersebut, tidak hanya sedangkan kalau dari sisi teman-teman MEP tugas untuk melihat feature itu adalah hanya melihat dari sisi pipanya saja. Begitu. Kemudian selanjutnya untuk kita akan menggunakan material bata ringan. Jadi mengubah bata ringan terhadap perubahan energinya. Nah, untuk sementara ini adalah sebelah kanan fitur-fitur yang ada di sebelah yang sudah saya sampaikan sebelumnya. Jadi kita bisa mencapai net zero. Sekarang saya akan tunjukkan di dalam yang harus teman-teman lakukan pertama adalah ke hbuildings.com. Di hbuildings.com ini teman-teman tinggal lihat di sebelah kanan atas ada H aplikasi. Nah, di H app ini nanti teman-teman harus menggunakan fitur-fitur di dalam aplikasi ini juga lebih luas. Jadi tinggal teman-teman lakukan saja seperti layaknya menggunakan aplikasi atau media sosial yang tidak berbayar. Oke, pertama adalah seperti yang saya sampaikan sebelumnya bahwa teman-teman harus mengisi lokasinya dulu, lokasi dan building data. Kita mengisi Bandung, kemudian project detailnya dilengkapi agar bisa di-save, kemudian juga sub-projectnya dilengkapi, dan ini juga ada stage-nya, jadi ada new building sama existing building, teman-teman pilih new building ya. Terus untuk tahapannya tentu kalau kita mau buat untuk untuk net zero itu harus yang sudah operasional, jadi kita masukkan sebagai post construction. Terus ini ada building data yang kami bikin default ya. Kemudian pembagian ruangan juga seperti ini. Lalu yang penting untuk building orientation nanti sebaiknya kalau teman-teman punya real project maka dia harus masukkan sesuai dengan kenyataannya. Jadi kayak yang paling utama dia menghadap kemana sih orientasinya gitu kan? Apakah utara, barat, timur gitu kan? Kemudian dimasukkan juga untuk building length atau panjang dari bidang yang menghadap ke setiap orientasi. Lalu ini tadi yang saya sampaikan no heating system karena ini digunakan untuk secara global ya, jadi kita harus memilih secara manual gitu. Jadi kalau kita nggak ada heating system, kita tulis no heating system. Saya akan bermulai dari water dulu. Jadi teman-teman dilihat di sini ada final energy use, jadi ada final water use, kemudian juga ada dia biaya listriknya berapa sih per bulan dengan performa bangunan seperti ini di Bandung gitu kan. Jadi kurang lebih per bulannya dia 91 juta. Terus di sini adalah pemakaian airnya. Nah, kita mau lihat bagaimana kalau kita misalnya tadi kita pakai keran-keran yang sudah hemat, keran yang hemat, kemudian dia sudah pakai dual flush. Kemudian bagaimana kalau kita pakai urinal yang juga udah hemat. Dan lagi untuk keran pun juga sudah hemat gitu. Terus yang satu lagi adalah yang biasanya dilakukan di perkantoran adalah mereka memanfaatkan air hujan untuk keperluan siram taman ataupun flushing. Jadi siram air hujan yang jatuh di taman ditampung sebesar 50% areanya mereka gunakan untuk keperluan mengurangi pemakaian air domestik gitu. Nah, tadi untuk material kita menggunakan untuk pelat lantai dan atapnya itu konkret ya, tapi dengan ketebalan 150. Kita masukkan di sini 150. Satu hal yang mau ditekankan adalah ketika teman-teman untuk dindingnya. Jadi kan untuk dinding luar external wall kan biasanya udah pakai bata untuk office sudah jarang ya. Biasanya orang udah pakai bata ringan kan. Jadi kita pilih drop down menunya, pilih yang autoclave aerated concrete block dengan ketebalan biasanya sekitar 120 atau 100. Tapi kita isi 120. Nah, teman-teman lihat nih energi jadi 1%. Jadi sebenarnya kan ini kan eksternal ya, walaupun dia adalah bidang di depan, tapi bagaimanapun konduksi itu mempengaruhi pemilihan material itu mempengaruhi konduksi yang akhirnya berpengaruh terhadap performa energi bangunan. Lalu ini juga internal wall kita ubah. Kalau internal wall seharusnya tidak berpengaruh karena kan dia bangun di dalam ya materialnya. Gitu. Nah, ini kita bikin 120. Nah, jadi teman-teman bisa lihat nih kita udah mencapai minimum 20% untuk water maupun untuk material. Dan ini adalah perbedaannya. Jadi ini adalah base case untuk pemakaian energi embodied material yang terkandung di energi embodied yang terkandung di material untuk bangunan base case serupa, tapi tidak melakukan improvement. Dan ini adalah desain yang akan kita ajukan. Lalu kemudian dari sini mungkin teman-teman sudah lihat karena pemakaian energi dan air itu ada incremental cost penambahannya sekitar 340 juta. Dan tapi ada payback-nya sekitar 6, kurang dari 7 tahun gitu. Tapi kita ada penghematan nih utility cost reduction sampai dengan 4 juta per tahun dari penghematan air saja gitu kan. Yuk sekarang kita ngomongin ke energi. Ini peran teman-teman semua besarnya di sini. Jadi kalau kita belum melakukan apapun improvement maka kurang lebih sama ya. Jadi kita untuk IKE-nya atau indeks konsumsi energinya sebesar 140 kWh per meter persegi per tahun. Sementara ini udah ada efisiensi sekitar 139 karena tadi pemakaian pemilihan dari material external wall. Nah, dalam desain teman-teman akan mendesain kira-kira bisalah mencapai 50%, jadi nggak terlalu banyak sekali, jadi lebih banyak memakai spandrel dan juga mungkin ya supaya bisa membuat performa cooling load-nya lebih baik. Gitu. Lalu tadi seperti disampaikan sebelumnya, teman-teman ingin ya kita bisa pakai reflektif untuk atap dari pemilihan jenis coating untuk cat di atap ya gitu. Kemudian untuk yang dindingnya pilih yang warna terang, gitu, misalnya putih atau shade of white kayak krem. Nah, kemudian ini dari sisi passive design. Jadi teman-teman bisa sampai improve 10% penghematan listrik. Artinya tadi kalau teman-teman lihat di sini ada 4 juta, sekarang bisa sampai penghematan 4 juta. Kemudian di sini teman-teman bisa lihat nih penurunannya nih, ada saving ya. Nah, sekarang yang akan kita lakukan adalah mau tidak mau kita mau memasukkan unsur active design supaya bisa lebih high performance. Tapi sebelum itu ada satu hal yang bisa teman-teman lakukan yaitu menggunakan kaca. Jadi teman-teman udah pakai low E coated glass. Dan mungkin sudah teman-teman tahu ya untuk SHGC ini biasanya kalau untuk pabrikan akan mengeluarkan informasi berupa SC atau solar coefficient ya. Jadi kalau ini kan solar heat gain coefficient, nanti teman-teman akan lihat SC, makanya dimasukkan adalah SHGC tinggal dikali 0,87. Gitu. Jadi bisa dilihat ini udah sampai 14% pemakaian energi penghematannya. Cukup baik gitu kan. Baru sekarang kita beranjak ke energi untuk yang aktif desain. Tadi kita menggunakan VRF, jadi kita VRF udah pakai yang generasi baru ya, udah ke generasi 4 gitu. Jadi udah pakai yang COP-nya 3,8. Gitu. Bentar. Oke. Lalu kemudian yang berikutnya adalah kita akan melakukan kita akan melakukan Jadi signifikan sekali dari 14% sampai dengan 22%. Artinya pemilihan fitur AC itu bisa mencapai sampai dengan 11% dari penggunaan penghematan energi bangunan. Lalu kemudian yang berikutnya adalah tentu untuk lampu-lampu sudah cukup banyak tersedia lampu LED dan juga TL ya, T5 gitu yang sudah efisien untuk pemakaian energinya. Kita klik di sini. Dan selanjutnya untuk kontrol untuk lighting system juga sudah kita lakukan di semua bagian bangunan gitu, termasuk occupancy sensor. Dan kemudian ini terakhir adalah occupancy sensor untuk open office. Nah, ketika dia sudah mencapai 41%, ini akan berubah menjadi edge advance. Ini yang tadi dikatakan kalau misalnya dia tidak mengikuti net zero juga sudah mendapatkan mencapai edge advance. Nah, kemudian selanjutnya supaya dia bisa zero carbon, gimana sih? Tadi seperti disampaikan sebelumnya kan ada 3 cara ya. Jadi yang pertama adalah menggunakan on-site renewable energy. Nah, ini ada namanya solar, kita bisa pasang solar PV sih. Nah, tapi kan solar PV itu kan misalnya kita mau pasang di lokasi, teman-teman pasti akan menghitung kebutuhan kira-kira berapa banyak nih yang lahan yang kita butuhkan untuk pasang PV gitu kan. Nah, secara thumb rule itu 1 kWp atau kebutuhan energi yang dibutuhkan untuk pemakaian listrik itu yang dikonversi pada panel, dia butuh sekitar luas 6-7 meter persegi. Jadi kalau misalnya kita ngomong 400 ya, 400 dia untuk sampai 100% pemakaian energi, maka dia butuh 400 kWp. Maka dia butuh sekitar 4 kali 7 3.600 2.800 meter persegi untuk luas atap gitu. Kemudian selanjutnya ini salah satu opsi yang pertama. Jadi artinya kalau misalnya tadi kita luas bidangnya cukup diketahui apakah mencapai 2.800 meter persegi, maka bisa kita menggunakan opsi ini. Tapi kan kembali lagi untuk efektivitas dari solar PV ini ada beberapa perhitungan, seperti misalnya lokasi bangunan, kemudian orientasi bangunan, dan juga mungkin efektivitas kapasitas si solar PV dalam menyerap atau mengkonversi listrik solar menjadi listriknya begitu. Kemudian yang kedua adalah bisa juga teman-teman pakai yang on-site tapi dari source renewable energy yang lainnya. Jadi misalnya bisa dari air, bisa juga dari, di sini ada pilihannya ya. Jadi ada angin dan juga bisa juga geothermal dan hydropower. Jadi ini ada beberapa opsi kalau dia mau on-site renewable energy. Nah, tadi yang seperti ditanyakan oleh Pak Budi, ini agak terkait. Jadi salah satunya adalah off-site renewable energy procurement. Ini kita saat ini sudah sangat mungkin dilakukan karena seperti kami sampaikan, sebelum kita ketersediaannya, jadi cara kerja off-site renewable energy procurement ini tidak akan mempengaruhi performa dari CO2 operasional bangunan teman-teman, karena dia hanya akan mengkonvert apa yang menjadi footprint karbon dari operasional bangunan yang akan berjalan. Jadi secara performa bangunan akan sama tuh pemakaian energinya, yaitu sekitar per tahunnya teman-teman tetap IKI-nya 82 kWh per meter persegi per tahun. Tetapi secara carbon footprint teman-teman sudah balance antara pada saat operasional dengan yang kalian lakukan dengan membeli off-site renewable RE purchase ini. Nah, terkait dengan ketersediaan di Indonesia, sudah ada belum sih? Sudah ada. Jadi kalau dari teman-teman bisa lihat ke sini ada PLN ya. Teman-teman ke PLN aja, ada layanan namanya Renewable Energy Certificate. Jadi layanan.pln.co.id. Ini kami baru amati ada baru sejak sekitar September atau Desember 2020. Lalu kemudian sudah mulai berkembang, layanannya sudah lebih baik, di mana kalau teman-teman klik ada Renewable Energy Certificate di sini, maka akan tampil tuh yang namanya informasi ada pembangkit dan bagaimana cara belinya. Jadi kita lokal sudah ada purchasing untuk offset area ini. Dan menariknya lagi, teman-teman bisa tahu nih, kira-kira kita mau beli pembangkit ini dari mana sih sumbernya? Ini sudah ada daftar pembangkitnya, jadi dia ada di PLTPK Mojang, di daerah Bandung ya, ini daerah Kabupaten Bandung, dan kapasitas cukup besar, 140 MW. Sementara kalau dari bangunan kita, kalau teman-teman lihat, kita hanya memerlukan kebutuhan sekitar, kita ada 34 per bulan, kira-kira kita kali setahun ya, kira-kira kita kebutuhannya sekitar 400.000 kWh gitu per tahun kan. Jadi cukup untuk bisa membeli dari si Kamojang ini. Jadi artinya kalau teman-teman nanti punya inisiatif dari perusahaannya saya ingin membeli REC ini dari PLN, bisa, sangat memungkinkan. Dan ini sudah kita bisa sebut sebagai net zero carbon. Begitu. Dan selanjutnya ini tadi kalau untuk carbon offset juga contoh yang sama. Jadi hanya saja dia bukan dari renewable energy, tapi dia carbon offset dari aktivitas lain seperti misalnya apakah dari metan atau kemudian ada namanya carbon capture atau satu lagi sih kayak restorasi hutan. Nah itu yang di-convert menjadi yang akan kita gunakan untuk operasional bangunan kita. Nah, jadi kurang lebih ini adalah beberapa opsi yang di Indonesia apakah mungkin sih kita mencapai renewable energy gitu. Karena itu sangat memungkinkan. Tinggal nanti maksudnya secara teoritis itu sangat memungkinkan, tinggal bagaimana dari si pemilik gedung ingin mengaplikasikannya dan dengan perhitungan tentunya energi bersih ini apabila ada dukungan dari pemerintah akan lebih cepat lagi. Sementara untuk yang ingin kami sampaikan terkait dengan emission karbon zero adalah tersebut seperti itu. Selanjutnya ini saya hold atau saya lanjutkan dulu ya Bu Ova? Untuk tema
boleh
yang berbeda.
Mungkin ditanya dulu barangkali Mbak Yanu kalau misalnya ada yang mau ditanyakan atau ya mungkin belum bisa ngikutin sepenuhnya ya, tapi mungkin ada pertanyaan dari yang menggelitik atau lebih interestnya para peserta barangkali silakan kalau ada. Ini sementara
saya Ibu.
Tidak ada pertanyaannya baru dari yang tadi sih.
Boleh bertanya Bu?
Boleh silakan.
Dari Agus nih, dari Undip.
Monggo dibuka juga kameranya barangkali.
Mohon maaf nih pakai HP. Saya kan pernah coba itu buka-buka di yang Edge itu. Kita kan kebetulan kan tinggal di kota kecil tuh. Pernah saya untuk lokasi itu saya klik di kota tempat saya itu enggak bisa muncul, tapi dia lebih ke kota-kota besar. Itu gimana itu anunya? Apakah itu kita pakai pendekatan atau kota yang terdekat atau gimana itu? Mungkin itu. Kemudian yang kedua terkait dengan gross internal area. Itu perhitungan itu apakah itu murni bangunan atau dengan site sekitarnya? Mungkin sementara itu Ibu. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Agus. Mbak Yanu mau langsung dijawab aja?
Ya Ibu, siap. Baik, terima kasih Pak Agus. Jadi pertanyaannya memang sering kalau kita baru pakai itu memang banyak pertanyaan seperti ini karena memang kan opsinya kok terbatas ya untuk kota gitu kan di sini. Jadi memang kalau nanti lokasi Bapak yang kami sarankan adalah yang mendekati dengan keadaan climate lokasi Bapak. Jadi kayak misalnya kalau Bapak lokasinya ada di, biasanya sih kalau teman-teman Jogja kan di sini belum ada Pak, mereka akan pakai Solo, begitu ya, informasi Solo. Kecuali kalau Bapak punya informasi lebih detail mengenai climate-nya, kan kita narik ini dari Metronom Pak, data Metronom nih. Bapak punya lebih spesifik untuk masukin data building terkait dengan climate sekitar juga bisa dimasukkan nih Pak. Jadi kayak ini kebetulan masih yang outdoor average temperatur. Jadi kalau memang ada boleh dimasukkan sesuai kalau memang ada dimasukkan di sini. Terus tinggal kita attach aja gitu. Tapi memang lebih gampang sih mendekati kayak kota-kota daerah yang paling dekat dengan daerah saya apa ya gitu. Karena kita ini kan kaitannya sama outdoor sama indoor kan itu kaitannya sama panas dan akan terkait dengan cooling load ya Pak ya, beban pendingin nanti. Jadi itu pendekatannya dari sana.
Oh ya, siap.
Ya, dan satu lagi sih kayak hujan Pak, karena kan kalau tadi kan kita ada menghitung misalnya Bapak mau masukin mau nampung air hujan, kan kita kan juga harus masukin data ini gitu. Jadi kurang lebih yang mendekati.
Oh, ya.
Menjawab ya Pak Agus ya.
Ya, Bu.
Satu lagi.
Bu, boleh tanya Bu?
Iya, sebentar Pak Budi, saya boleh menjawab satu lagi ya Pak, yang tentang gross internal area Pak. Jadi memang tadi baik sekali pertanyaannya karena mungkin sebenarnya kalau Bapak klik di sini ada di measure-nya Pak, ini ada informasi yang namanya user guide. Jadi akan kalau Bapak mau info ya, kalau sudah pada sign up dan login gitu, jadi di sini nanti bisa lebih detail ya. Nah terkait dengan GFA ini Bapak sebenarnya menghitung untuk pakai garis dalam. Jadi kan biasanya kan kalau arsitek hitungnya kan pakai garis tengah ya Pak. Tapi kalau untuk edge aplikasi ini yang kita masukkan untuk seperti ini ada user entry GIA ini Pak, gross internal area adalah garis dalam. Karena kalau komponen material dindingnya itu dihitung udah saat masuk ke dalam material ini. Jadi yang memang yang dihitung hanya bagian garis dalamnya saja. Cukup jelas Pak Gus?
Building saja itu ya Bu?
Betul Pak, buildingnya saja. Jadi kalau Bapak nggak harus hitung site-nya gitu.
Oh ya, siap. Oke, terima kasih Bu.
Sama-sama Ibu. Sama-sama Bapak. Bu apa? Mau lanjut?
Boleh satu lagi, Mbak Yanu?
Ya, boleh saya tanya?
Silakan Pak Budianto.
Nah, terima kasih Bu Ova. Bu Yanu mau tanya, itu yang Kamojang tadi itu kan tulisannya REC. Itu seperti kayak carbon offset, apa kita beli dari offset renewable? Apa berupa kertas aja atau memang dia ada infrastruktur yang mengalirkan energi dari Kamojang itu ke set kita?
Ini berupa kontrak Pak. Jadi berupa paper ya, karena dia renewable energy content. Jadi sifatnya lebih
carbon offset.
Betul, Pak.
Oke. Ya sama nanti mungkin dijawab Bu Yano atau si Angelo. Itu kan kita bicara net zero carbon ya. Itu kan performance base. Nah, itu tadi saya tanya ya, apakah ada pengalaman yang bisa di-share misalnya di Artaland atau gimana? Bagaimana di dalam 1 tahun itu kan kita dinilainya setelah 1 tahun. Bagaimana di dalam 1 tahun itu bisa nggak kita misalkan kalau ada efisiensi energi kurang kita tambah. Kemudian pembelian carbon offset itu di awal 1 tahun operasional apa di akhir gitu. Jadi itu menyangkut penilaian ini kan, karena penilaiannya kan 1 tahun kan, 1 tahun operasional. Itu aja.
Nanti mungkin bisa dibantu sama Angelo ya Pak, tapi pada prinsipnya kalau untuk penilaian net zero itu kan dia menilai operasional bangunan setahun karena ingin lihat listriknya berapa ya Pak. Itu pun juga dengan minimum okupansi 75%. Jadi kita nggak ingin ya kayak misalnya pandemi ini kan sebenarnya kan okupansi bahkan bisa 25% kan, tapi itu kan jadi nggak ajib Pak kalau kita hitung sebagai performa bangunan tahunan. Jadi memang harus yang pada waktu itu masih ideal karena waktu itu belum ada pandemi ya Pak, jadi mereka masih bisa menghitung dalam setahun terakhir berapa operational buildingnya, kemudian dilakukan kontrak itu rasanya sih biasanya kalau kontrak offset itu per beberapa tahun gitu Pak. Jadi kan di dalam, jadi bisa apakah cukup untuk mengcapture atau menyeimbangkan antara dalam setahun terakhir. Tapi nanti mungkin bisa ditanyakan ke Angelo lebih lanjut, or mungkin mau ditanya sekarang Bu ke Angelo atau gimana terkait dengan pengalaman yang di Artaland Filipina.
Mbak Yano masih ada material lagi yang mau dilanjutkan? Karena nanti ini masih ada beberapa pertanyaan juga buat Angelo.
Oke, saya sampaikan sedikit lagi Bu, boleh?
Ya, boleh, silakan Mbak.
Begitu Pak Budi ya.
Terima kasih Bu.
Saya lanjutkan dulu Ibu Eva berarti kalau gitu ya. Oke, ini lebih ke ini sih, kita mau memberikan gambaran terkait dengan green building market sama peluang kerja bagi teman-teman, terutama teman-teman arsitek terkait dengan green building. Nah, jadi kita ada satu studi yang dilakukan oleh IFC di tahun 2019 bahwa sampai dengan tahun 2030 diharapkan kita akan memiliki peluang investasi di green building itu sebesar 24,7 triliun dolar. Dan memang 63%-nya itu adalah jatuh ke sektor residensial. Nah, mungkin kalau teman-teman lihat di sini mungkin bingung ya. Jadi ini adalah gambaran bagaimana sih peluang-peluang investasi itu di breakdown berdasarkan tipe bangunan dan berdasarkan area. Dan kita mungkin beruntung karena kita di Indonesia ada di East Asia Pasifik. East Asia Pasifik adalah lokasi yang paling banyak akan memiliki peluang investasi untuk green building, yaitu sebesar 16 triliun dolar gitu. Jadi dibandingkan dengan negara lain kita paling banyak di East Asia Pasifik. Dan tentu pasti pertanyaannya berikutnya, oke, ini ada peluang investasi green building, tapi memang ada yang green building gitu kan. Harusnya kan kalau memang ada peluang, outputnya adalah pasti ada yang green building dong, gitu kan. Nah, di sini kita mau gambarin untuk keadaan Indonesia ya. Jadi di Indonesia sendiri ini kita tuh sampai saat ini ada sekitar 6 juta meter persegi. Kita bicara kumulatif dari bangunan yang sudah mendapatkan sertifikat green building. Jadi kenapa kita memakai sertifikat green building? Karena seperti yang disampaikan Angelo, ini terukur. Kita bisa tahu sudah diverifikasi memang itu green. Jadi bukan yang hanya tagline kayak green residensial gitu. Jadi bukan seperti itu. Kita ingin memang sudah terverifikasi. Nah, kalau teman-teman lihat dari kuenya, memang paling banyak green chip, kemudian kita dilanjutkan oleh Edge, dan juga ada LEED dan Green Mark. Nah, kalau misalnya ini kita kumulatif dari awal sampai dengan per Juni 2021. Kalau green chip sendiri mungkin sudah mulai sejak tahun 2009, kemudian Edge kita mulai di tahun 2015, sedangkan LEED dan Green Mark sebenarnya sudah lama ya, jadi sejak 2009 ataupun 2014, namun memang penetrasinya dirasa tidak sebanyak antara green chip dan Edge. Lalu kemudian kalau teman-teman sudah melihat adanya, ini kan secara kumulatif, tapi kan teman-teman ingin tahu secara per tahun kira-kira gimana sih, apakah di awal doang banyak ataukah makin lama makin banyak. Nah, kami ingin memberikan keadaan gambaran untuk Edge di Indonesia. Jadi ini lebih spesifik untuk Edge aja. Jadi mungkin ya walaupun tidak memberikan gambaran secara umum green building-nya, tapi secara di Edge sendiri data kami menunjukkan bahwa memang setiap tahun itu terjadi peningkatan demand terhadap green building begitu. Nah, terus teman-teman mungkin bertanya, lalu yang FY19 kok kecil? Ya, karena pada saat ini ada pemilu, jadi memang keputusan pengusaha dan pengembang itu sangat tergantung dari nuansa politik yang terjadi. Mereka jadi kayak menahan apakah harus melanjutkan pembangunannya, atau mereka sangat wait and see untuk melihat bagaimana pemimpin ke depannya begitu. Dan ternyata memang ketika FY20 dan juga FY21 fiscal year 21 ya semua semakin meningkat gitu. Dan kalau teman-teman lihat di sini kan FY21 tuh udah termasuk yang mulai awal-awal kita mau pandemik ya. Tapi kita juga ternyata kok tetap ada aja gitu. Nah, mungkin kalau teman-teman lihat di sini paling banyak adalah 0,2 atau 200.000 meter persegi itu dari apartemen. Kemudian yang kedua adalah landed. Nah, kemudian yang ketiga service apartemen. Dan satu lagi yang paling menarik adalah university. Jadi mulai banyak sekali yang mengadopsi green building. Kalau untuk karena pada di awal-awal di awal-awal pandemik itu pemerintah sangat mendukung untuk memberikan segala policy ya supaya bisnis dan perekonomian berjalan melalui kemudahan DP membeli rumah pada waktu itu. Jadi dengan kemudahan DP ini, jadi orang-orang yang kerjanya yang bisa menghemat karena tidak harus ke kantor, mereka bisa melakukan pembelian rumah. Jadi bagaimanapun pengembang tetap bisa melakukan kegiatannya, dan juga dari real estate sektor ini tetap berjalan perekonomian. Dan ditambah lagi kita memang sangat beruntung karena di tahun 2019 itu juga didukung oleh kebijakan BI bahwa dari lembaga keuangan sendiri juga mendukung lembaga keuangan dan juga pengembang ataupun pengusaha-pengusaha properti gitu untuk bisa memperbanyak portfolio untuk green building, dan itu dengan memberikan LTV atau loan to value atau mungkin gampangnya adalah DP yang mungkin lebih ringan bagi para pembeli yang bisa yang membeli dari bangunan yang sudah green building. Nah, ketika teman-teman sudah paham, misalnya, oke deh, berarti kan tiap tahun green building naik ya, gitu. Terus kemudian sebenarnya ya buat kita apa hubungannya gitu kan? Nah, kita mau coba juga nunjukin bahwa ini adalah kue yang menunjukkan kita dapat Edge project itu dari mana sih? Jadi kalau teman-teman lihat di sebelah kanan ini ada Edge client ya, kemudian ada Edge expert, dan juga ada from IFC client. Nah, sebenarnya secara project count ada paling banyak adalah dari Edge expert. Jadi artinya ini yang mendorong project-project untuk green building itu ternyata dari Edge expert. Jadi tadi mungkin disampaikan sudah oleh Angelo, expert itu siapa sih gitu. Jadi mereka adalah personil yang sudah mengikuti pelatihan pastinya pertama mereka adalah orang-orang yang berminat di green building. Kemudian dia mempelajari, ikut training Edge expert, ikut ujian, dan mereka menjadi Edge expert sehingga bisa meyakinkan kliennya supaya melakukan sertifikasi Edge begitu. Dan uniknya lagi adalah ketika, dan terkait dengan teman-teman semua, ketika kami di sini IFC adalah perannya salah satunya memberikan technical advisory kepada klien-klien kami IFC ya. Dan mereka harus menggunakan pendanaan yang sudah diberikan supaya bangunannya green building. Dan tentunya ketika kita bicara technical advisory, kami duduk tidak kepada pimpinan yang memiliki keputusan manajemen, tetapi kepada teman-teman arsitek. Jadi kita mengedukasi kembali teman-teman arsitek bagaimana menggunakan Edge, bagaimana mereka mengkuantifikasi desain mereka, bagaimana mereka membicarakan kelebihan desain mereka kepada teman-teman marketing dengan menunjukkan bahwa si pembeli rumah nih misalnya mereka bisa lebih murah loh bisa lebih murah biaya listriknya dibandingkan dengan rumah yang lain gitu. Jadi bahasa-bahasa ini yang mencoba kita jembatani antara kenapa Edge tool ini kita sediakan gitu. Jadi semua dari mulai developer kemudian arsitek sebagai leading dalam mendesain itu juga bisa berperan meyakinkan untuk bisa mengurangi kerusakan lingkungan. Saya rasa dari saya itu Bu Ova, mungkin silakan kalau ada sesi pertanyaan.
Oke, terima kasih Mbak Yanu. Apakah ada pertanyaan lagi khusus untuk sesinya Mbak Yanu ini sebelum aku undang Angelo lagi? Oke, kayaknya bisa ditunggu sambil ini ya, Mbak Yanuya nanti ya. Oke, silakan. Angelo, I would like to invite you again to the discussions. Are you there, Angelo? Okay, so we still have some questions here from our participants. I would like to read from Rido. First of all, it's considering about plants. Yeah, maybe it's about too technical, but maybe you can share about the answer. It's about plants, whether or not a building can be called as an environmentally house or zero carbon building. There should be a plant inside, and if yes, what are the plants? That's the questions.
Sorry, plants?
Yeah, plants, trees, yeah, plants,
like
flowers.
behind you.
Yeah.
So just because there are plants inside the house or the building does not necessarily mean that it's already a sustainable or a green building. There's this design called biophilic design, which is where we incorporate nature patterns, actual plants, nature light as some of the natural aspects into the design that we do. But on their own, they don't necessarily mean that the building or home is already a green home or a green building. So it has to be a more comprehensive approach to green building design and construction. And again, it has to be third-party validated.
Okay, so I think the most important case is the validation process, right? Whether or not it is valid.
That's right. And it's not just one maybe piecemeal technology. It's not just about one technology like solar. It has to be a more comprehensive approach to green building design and construction.
Okay, thank you. Rido, I hope it is answering your questions, yeah. And I would like to go on to the next question. It's coming from Parda. To be short, the question is, as an early effort or initial effort, how do you think or how can students invite people on campus, such as starting from the department, to pay more attention to this net zero waste? Now it's net zero waste. Do you have any? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's this is the part where we talk about dimensions that are beyond the design and the construction, right? It talks about maybe political or maybe social issues. And this is a part where we can start with ourselves, self-discipline, and also where we can lobby to people in positions of authority. So like in the setup of a university, of course, that would be the management of the university. In the local government, that would be our government officials. So we can always go out and lobby to them to implement policies around waste management.
Okay, maybe adding to that kind of questions, Angelo, where is actually located this zero carbon waste in terms of zero carbon as a whole concept?
Yes, so definitely waste is an important component of net zero or zero carbon operations, design and operations and construction. For EDGE, again, we look at the category of materials efficiency. So that's how we ensure that we are minimizing waste and also lowering embodied energy in our materials. And then, of course, outside of that, something that the green building certifications don't actually look at are consumption habits of people who are living in the buildings. For example, when we use single-use plastics or we order McDonald's or whatever you have, that's not something that's being measured by the green building rating systems. But of course, that's always something that can be looked at from a building management perspective. Like when we operate our offices, when we live in our homes, and they will also be critical in the broader picture, I would say.
Okay, so this must be something that tangible inside of the calculation, yeah?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Again, there are many, even with green SHIP or LEED or other green building rating systems, the behavior of the people in the buildings is something that we cannot really control. So it's important to have first, self-discipline, and also number two, to have policies in place to ensure that people will have the discipline.
Okay, thank you, Angelo. There is one more questions actually from Pak Budianto. Pak Budi, would you like to address the questions directly, Pak Budi, to Angelo?
Let me try. Angelo, I would like to ask you about the net zero carbon as a performance-based valuation. We have to make measurement in the 1 year operation. Is there any opportunity? Maybe you can share the experience from Artaland. In 1 year operation, can we add some feature to increase the energy efficiency? And for buying the carbon offset can be done at beginning of the 1 year, or at the end? That's my question.
So thank you for that question, Budianto. So on the first question, yes, it is possible to further improve the efficiency of the building during operations. So this is something that we talked about in the form of green retrofits. For example, some of the easy ones are implementing LED lighting, installing occupancy sensors, shading devices outside the facade of the building. So upgrading the mechanical system, those are some of the green retrofit measures. So in the course of auditing a net zero building, once it is operational, yes, it is still possible to further increase the energy efficiency. So on your second question, I'm not sure if I understand it correctly, but you're asking whether a building can purchase offsets ahead of the operations of the building. Is that correct? Before
because when we calculate with ads before at the beginning of 1 year operation, we can know about how much the renewable energy that we can buy from offset, from carbon offset, for example. We buy at the beginning of the 1 year period, or the end, after we know the actual measurement of the energy consumption.
Yes, that's a good question, and I do apologize for not. I think I didn't mention that earlier. So the auditing for zero carbon happens after 1 year of operation of the building at 75% occupancy. So we can award the EDGE preliminary certificate when the building is completed or before completion, but the building has to operate for at least a year before we can award the EDGE zero carbon. So that way we have a basis for auditing what's the actual consumption and how much needs to be catered to by the renewable energy, or how much offsets we need to purchase. In the case of NEO, the NEO office portfolio in the Philippines, what happened there was, we came in and the buildings were already operational with renewable energy for quite a few years. So we already have a reference here for evaluating the net zero performance. What we're just doing now is to explore ways to further increase the energy efficiency to reach the required levels. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Angelo.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pak Budianto.
Thank you.
Angelo, so I still have questions from myself. Actually, this can also be answered by Mbak Yanu. When we talk about this, the material of what we have today, but what I would like to hear more, maybe the students also would like to hear more, is about the main concept, the basic concept of the net zero itself. Yeah, whether it is net zero carbon or other net zero, but what is actually the basic concept of this net zero? Maybe you can share on Bayano. Thank you.
Yanu, you want to take that question?
No, I think you're fine.
Well, the reason why we really need to do net zero for buildings in particular is because our efforts right now are not enough to ensure that global warming is kept below 2 degrees Celsius. So ordinary green building certification now is not enough. We need to ensure that all our new buildings are net zero by 2030, and that by 2050, both new and old buildings are net zero. Otherwise, the planet will just keep warming, and we will just see more of climate change. So that's the only option that we have now, to do more net zero buildings. Does that answer the question, Bu Ova? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but maybe you can also give us like an overview. How do you think, how pessimist or how optimist it is to heading 2030 to the all with the green buildings maybe?
Yeah, well, we're definitely working towards that. And we have to be optimistic, I guess is my answer. You know, in the Philippines, I think that we do have the enabling environment. Maybe Yano can talk about Indonesia, but for the Philippines, we have the policies in place. So we have policies that allow developers to not get their electricity from the national supplier if they fall within a certain consumption on an annual basis. And that gives them the option to get from a renewable supplier. We also have policies for consumers who can also do the same if they have a certain level of consumption. And we had a moratorium on coal power plants, meaning that we cannot create more coal power plants anymore. So I think that things are coming together. And I think that these are all great news. And again, we have to continue working hard to talk to developers, banks, governments, and building professionals to make it happen. Maybe from Indonesian perspective, what do you think? Are you optimistic or?
So I think Bu, allow me to speak in bahasa.
Sure.
So kalau Indonesia sendiri, saya rasa sih ya mungkin memang saat ini untuk terkait dengan energi kita masih ada restriksi terkait dengan penggunaan on-site grid on grid ya Bu untuk pemakaian solar PV karena kita masih itu konversinya masih 65%. Padahal kan itu cukup lumayan kalau kita mau berhitung untuk menggunakan solar PV, terutama bangunan kecil ataupun hunian ya Bu. Jadi itu mungkin masih salah satu kendala. Tapi baiknya adalah sekarang PLN mulai menyambut. Jadi salah satunya adalah tadi saya pikir sebelumnya kita belum ada tuh yang namanya REC, Renewable Energy Certificate. We haven't that yet. But then we just saw that last year, 2020, so they already provide that portal about renewable energy certificate, and now they already give another information about which location that they have to provide that kind of renewable energy, even not in the, I mean like, so, but they already provide all the scheme or any other information like how to buy, what kind of company they can buy, and what semua yang terkait dengan kayak syarat dan bagaimana cara pembeliannya. Jadi saya pikir ini adalah awal yang bagus dari karena kita masih PLN ya Bu, yang menjadi poros utama untuk supply listrik. Jadi saya pikir itu sudah sangat baik, tapi memang dorongan dari private sector itu kepada para penyuplai listrik itu memang sangat besar gitu. Jadi memang tapi kami sih optimis, walaupun dan Ibu juga mungkin dengar ya GBCI juga sudah Green Building Council Indonesia juga mulai mendorong semua harus ya kita menuju net zero karbon sampai dengan 2030 dan 2050, dan kami pikir itu adalah langkah yang baik kita bersama-sama untuk menerapkan net zero karbon. Mungkin itu Bu Ova.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Yeni.
Bu Ova, Bu Yanu, mungkin satu lagi. Saya minggu lalu dengar kabar bahwa ESDM mau membuat policy bahwa nanti mereka beli dihargai 100%. Tapi ini sedang jalan pembahasannya. Jadi mungkin mudah-mudahan sebentar lagi ada permen baru SDM untuk menghargai listrik dari PLTS 100%.
Alhamdulillah. So let's wait for the implementation ya, Pak.
Iya.
Yeah, but Mbak Yanu, I'm interested to the data that you have been given to us, that the university in the latest 2020 already participated in certificating the green building. And it's also happening in Universitas Indonesia, actually. Yeah, we have this.
Yeah, we're glad that you already registered your project, Bu.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Actually, I have those data. If you don't mind, I want to share. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so maybe just to introduce you guys, we are actually try to support this kind of movement in our campus. And I think Mr. Yodi is here, so maybe he can share his opinion also. We have this maybe quite a new building around 2 years ago. Gedung Pusdiwa means that central student activity in terms of university. So all the university activities is located here in this building. We already has this certificate, I think last year, or I think it's last year.
You can see the date on the last.
Yeah. So yeah, we managed to have this 20% of energy saving, 34% of water, and the highest is the 42% of embodied energy. The explanation, I think I will, yeah, this is last year, 24th May. The explanation is here. How do we get that in terms of energy, reduce the window to wall ratio, especially on the external shading device. I will give you the photos later. Okay. Insulation roof, natural ventilation for corridors, and light bulbs. In water measures, I think Bu Yanu also already mentioned that we choose the water efficient faucet, urinals, and kitchen sinks. So as she mentioned before, architects doesn't end in like designing the form of the building, but also choosing the right utility. So this is what we've done on that. Maybe it's not really that interesting if we said on this kind of classroom, but on the reality, on the project, it is really, really effective. And the highest one is the materials. I will try to explain this better later. Floor slab, now this is maybe general, but the biggest one I think comes from this external wall. We use high-rapid concrete blocks, and this one exposed bricks with internal plaster, because what happened here that most of the building are using bricks. But the bricks itself, it is the source of, or maybe the factory that we bought the brick. So this is the building. Is located just 60 kilometers from this building. Maybe 60 kilometers is if we measure it by like maybe commuting, is quite far. But in terms of delivering building materials, 60 kilometers is quite short, because maybe in this classroom, I used to joke that I have a like personal experience. When somebody like try to promote his home as an sustainable house, but on the contrary, he said that, okay, this house is sustainable. And then in one room, he mentioned that this room has a marble that directly imported from Italy. So it doesn't make sense. you mentioned something about sustainability, but you require a materials that comes from across the globe. But here we only took like maybe 60 kilometers of distance between this building and the factory. So for this building itself, yeah, so this is the whole building. It's not really, it is still on the last part of the construction when I took this photos. Most of it are bricks. On the, let's say, public area, we encourage to have cross ventilations here. And here we have a pool, which is collecting all the rainwater from the roof. So if we are in the rainy season, all the water are collected here. While if we are on the hot season, we still use groundwater. So it's a effort to reduce the water consumption. And yep, everything here bricks, but it is located not far from our building. And yeah, this is the corridor that I mentioned before with cross ventilation and natural lighting. So yep, as I mentioned before, our university is encouraging all the facility and infrastructure to be more effective. I hope next year, Bofa, if I'm not mistaken, we will have another building that is on the certificate level.
This year, Galaxy.
This year? Okay, that's cool.
For our new building, the integrated, creative integrated learning laboratories, the ISL building, which is in engineering faculty. Let's see. Okay, do I still have questions? We have here Mas Yodi. Mas Yodi would like to have questions, Mas Yodi? And
yes, hello.
Talk about the certifications in UE.
Okay, yeah, that's a good. Nice to meet you all again, Angelo and Yanu, of course, Bofa. Okay. Yes, I want to ask about the green building movement in Philippines. Is for the age section maybe because is there any encouragement from the government and the private sectors that require that in Philippines must change from the ordinary building into the green building? Is there and how about the age movement also in Philippines? Because yeah, for others, I'm also a CBP now, Angelo.
Thank you for that question, Yodi. So there are two sides to that question. The first one is green buildings in general. So the answer is yes. We created the Philippine Green Building Code with the Department of Public Works and Highways, which is like our Ministry of Public Works. And the Philippine Green Building Code is a mandatory code for projects that have a size of more than 10,000 square meters, depending on the building typology. So projects need to comply with that. So that already creates an enabling environment to have more green buildings in the Philippines. For EDGE Green Building Certification, we are discussing with a couple of local government units, but we don't have a law specifically requiring or incentivizing EDGE certification anywhere in the Philippines. But that is definitely something that we're working on. We find that, although we do find that EDGE is growing in the Philippines, mostly because developers want to do it and because we're here pushing it to the market, and also the financial institutions like banks are also working with us. On the side of the government, unfortunately, it's a bit slower, but hopefully we can do something with them very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Yodi. Maybe I would like to share a few pictures, or maybe just one picture of the building that we just mentioned, yeah? So if you see here, this is the latest building that we have in our faculty of engineering, the ISL building. It is now in the progress of certifications of age. Yeah, and as you can see here, we have this solar PV. Yeah, quite a lot. This 101 kilo power, and then here we also have the additional. And this building also has like a green water harvesting as well. It's embedded into the building. So I think that's all what I want to share. Yeah, Bayanu?
That interesting project, Bu. I mean, like I just saw this kind of a project that has so many solar PV on the attached with the building. So this is great.
Thank you. Bayanu and Angelo, we still have one question here from Priya. I think this should be the last one. The last questions. Priya, can you do the questions directly, Priya?
Okay, ma'am. Well, great. Thanks for Mr. Angelo and Madam Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, in the beginning, we know there are great agenda in 2030 and 2050 about net zero building concept. And then for us as a student, is there any roadmap that we can follow to start taking part? Well, for realize the target from now. Gitu. And then as long I know, it sounds doesn't quite easy enough to change perception of building and our house user to taking place in net zero building agenda. So, or is there any suggestion for us or hope for young generation? Thank you.
So please, Angelo or Bayanu. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, Priya. I think that's a very, very relevant question. I think that one of the challenges in the uptake of green buildings in developing countries is that we don't have a lot of green building professionals. We don't have a lot of people who have the technical know-how. And I think that my advice would be that even during your undergraduate studies, to really study about green buildings, just like what we're doing now. I think that this work that we're doing with universities is a very important part of the work program in the sense that it can ensure that we have new cohorts of green building and sustainability advocates coming up. So continue what you're doing. On the side of the homes, I think that you're right. If we have a greater awareness from home buyers, the ordinary families, that they should choose to buy and live in a green home, then that will create a demand that will convince the developers to do more green homes. So that's what I can share. Maybe Yanu?
From my side, so allow me in bahasa. So I think yang terpenting, mungkin saya dan Angelo sama-sama memulai dari kuliah ya. Jadi cuma kebetulan memulainya kuliah S2 gitu untuk mendalami green building. Tapi kan karena memang pada waktu S1 kalau saya belum ada tentang green building gitu dan saya memang bukan di jurusan teknis seperti kalian. Tapi intinya adalah demand-nya ada. Jadi teman-teman udah lihat bahwa secara peluang investasi opportunity untuk green building itu besar di negara kita, di negara Asia Pasifik, dan juga tentunya dengan adanya demand atau peluang investasi kan berarti ada demand sebenarnya, kebutuhannya ada. Tinggal teman-teman sendiri passionnya apakah di situ atau tidak, tinggal sebenarnya lebih passion sih kalau memang teman-teman lihat ada demand dan teman-teman suka untuk ngulik, dan terutama ini mungkin secara intangible kita tahu lingkungan apa sih nggak kelihatan, tapi kalau teman-teman rasakan sendiri di rumah, kayak misalnya saya bisa bayar listrik lebih murah, kalau saya bisa bantu orang yang rumahnya kecil yang untuk makan aja susah, kita bisa meringankan bayar listriknya, itu kan juga sesuatu yang sebenarnya baik ya untuk humanity gitu. Jadi secara tinggal bagaimana passion teman-teman kemudian mau diasah ke sana, dan karena kan modul-modul green building itu sekarang sudah banyak sekali di kampus, sudah ada, kemudian secara umum teman-teman bisa dapati, jadi tinggal mengikuti perkembangannya, dan saya rasa sih itu sih untuk bisa teman-teman mahasiswa kemudian bisa terjun nggak sih ke dunia green building, apakah dibutuhkan atau tidak gitu. Mungkin dari saya itu Bu Ova.
Ya, Mbak Yanu, terima kasih banyak. Also, Angelo and also Mbak Yanu, I think it's about the time to leave now. But before that, teman-teman sekalian, ada 2 link untuk feedback yang ada di kolom chat. Mohon bantuannya untuk diisi, singkat-singkat saja, tapi mohon dibantu untuk diisi karena ini penting buat kami juga, untuk kalian juga nanti ke depannya. Terus kami juga mau mengajak foto bersama. Yeah, so Angelo, this is the most important thing at the moment. We need to do the photo session. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, please turn on the camera to all of you. We need to have the photo session together.
I will count. 1, 2, 3.
No, if you count, you need to count until 10.
I cannot.
Okay, yeah. So there will be 2 windows. Now we'll take the first one. Give your best smile. Yeah, don't worry. 1, 2, 3. Okay. One more window. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much once again, Angelo, and also Mbak for the IFSC and also for the Swiss Confederations. Sukses, Mas Yodi. Terima kasih banyak, Kak Laksi. Terima kasih banyak,
Thank you, Bu Ova.
teman-teman semuanya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Bu Ova, Bu Yano.